you know? Like a walk-up song where they play music.
Oh, okay. So you get the
clicker for now. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Hello, virtual people. Thank you for coming to our session. There's great turnout at this conference, which is super exciting. It's good to see everybody and such a diverse crowd. It's fantastic. So we are here today. Let me see if, okay, I did it. I did it correctly. I am Sarah Adams. I work for Deloitte. This is my headshot from 15 years ago, which I really like, and I refuse to change. But that really is me. I've been at Deloitte since 2000. I focus on internal audit the whole time. For the last 6, going on 7 now years, I've really focused on Agile internal audit. And I'll talk a little bit about our journey there. But the world, we've talked about this a lot before, the world's changing very, very fast. And it's something we call VUCA, which we will also talk about a little bit more. And that's causing a lot of clients that we've worked with in the past to come back and refresh what they're doing and relook at what they've put in place and how they could even make it better, which is a core principle of Agile, right? Reflecting and improving. And that's what I worked with Andre. He was one of the first clients that I worked with when we were experimenting with Agile IA. And we connected again in January, and we started talking about how much the world has changed. And that prompted him to really look, or maybe it's his looking at what he was doing that prompted him to reach out to me. But we're now working again together. And it was Andre's idea for us to come here and share that story.
Yes, so I'm Andre. I work with a company called Siemens. I don't know if you're all familiar with it. We are an international company with more than 300,000 employees, and we're specialized in the health industry, mobility in sense of rails and rail infrastructure, then smart infrastructure, buildings, and the digital industries. I am a practice lead, an audit practice lead within the assurance function within Siemens. The assurance function, why? Because we do have also the colleagues from enterprise risk management, internal controls, and audit all combined into one function. So I would say that's it for my introduction.
Okay. So this is a brief summary of the learning objectives, and that's what you would have seen when you signed up to come to this class. But basically what we want to do is talk about the world we live in today, and then how can Agile internal audit, how can being Agile, really adopting Agile practices, actually lead to a win for you and position you so that you can better deal with our world. So when we have polling questions, right, for CPE, there's 2 ways that you can engage with us. So if you are on, okay, join slido.com, and enter the ID number, or just point your phones at the QR code. And I think the same is true for the virtual folks. Just point your phone to the QR code, a question will come up, and then you can just answer. So I think that's probably the easiest way to engage. You can also enter questions in the app. So we will be taking Q&A, so please enter questions if you have questions. So we're going to start with a polling question. So everybody use your phones or go to Slido, I guess it's Slido.com. How familiar are you with Agile internal audit? So basic understanding, solid, I'm an expert, or I don't even know how to spell Agile. Okay, so there's some real newbies. Okay, good. We will touch a little bit on Agile internal audit, what it means, what it is. It will be a high level, but then you should learn more about it as Andre goes through what he does at Siemens. But again, it's not going to replace an Agile 101 class. So.
Good,
okay.
But at least we know how the composition is, and then we can focus on this.
Yeah,
cool.
Perfect. So let me start with a word I used initially. Just a show of hands. Has anybody heard the word VUCA? Does that? Okay, handful of people. It's becoming more and more prominent. We've been using that word for a while. It describes our current environment. Right? Volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. You know, it forces us to both have a 5-year plan, but also be ready to change our plan in 3 months. So that is the world, and the changes are accelerating. So what do you do in a VUCA world? And in fact, how can Agile help you deal with a VUCA world? So start thinking about vision. So it's very volatile. Even within the volatility, where is your vision? And what helps you from an Agile, many of the characteristics of Agile help you, but having a cross-functional stable team, people with a lot of different skill sets can help you not just survive but thrive. Uncertainty, you want to focus on gaining and understanding, which doesn't mean having certainty. It means just understanding, curiosity, questions. Frequent delivery of insights. So that's one of the things Agile does. We'll talk a little bit more in detail about Agile, but it's this idea that you don't just deliver your audit report at the end of the audit, but you have frequent deliveries of insight. Complexity. So what do you need when things are complex? You need some clarity. How do you get clarity? Increase communications, and I would say not just with stakeholders, but with your team. This idea of over-communicating, daily stand-ups, really staying together as a team. And then for ambiguity, overall agility. And agility, I mean agility here in kind of the more general term, which is ability to pivot, right? So you don't know what next year is going to look like. You need to be able to come in, have a plan, but pivot from that plan. So short time-based iterations also supports that. You come back and you say, here's the piece of work I did. It's done. Now if you need to pivot, just then pivot. Make your pivots. I do believe, and let me just double check in the back, will everybody get these slides? Are these slides posted? They'll be able to download them? Okay. Okay, perfect. We've allowed it. You can download the deck. Just saying, there may be things you want to take pictures of, which is fine, but you're going to get the actual deck. So let me give you a little bit of an overview of Agile. Again, this doesn't replace a full 101 class. Iterative development, where solutions evolve through collaboration between the self-organizing cross-functional teams and the stakeholder. So it's a collaborative effort, delivering business value and continually improving. So most of us at some point stop and say, how are things going? This encourages you to do it even within an audit. Are we doing the right thing? Should we pivot, right? There's 4 core values, and no matter what, there's different flavors of Agile. No matter what flavor you embrace or even how you pivot yourself to make it a one-size-fits-one, there are 4 values that underline everything that's Agile. And everything you see in that upper right corner, all of those things are important. What we're saying is the items on the left take precedence over the items on the right. So, for example, individuals and interactions are more important than the process. Process is important to us auditors, but actually interacting with your teammates, interacting with the stakeholder, you don't have to wait until there's a star on your process that says time to interact, right? Business impact over comprehensive documentation. Again, we're auditors. Documentation will continue to be, is now, and will continue to be important to us. We have to show evidence of our work. But the impact that you have to the business has to be the most important thing we think about every day. Stakeholder collaboration over audit mandate. What that speaks to is, yes, we have something we want to get done, but we need to develop it in collaboration with our stakeholders. We have risks we need to address, but we need to constantly be having that conversation. And then the last one is responding to change over following a plan. And in this VUCA world, that is critical. I don't care how much effort you put into either your audit plan or your yearly plan. If the world changes, you need to change. If your company changes, you need to change. If the risks in an area you're auditing change, you need to change. So you need to respond to change. So key characteristics, you've heard me talk about some of these: collaboration, frequent delivery, adaptability, increased communication, right? This all seems like kind of motherhood and apple pie, but we can lose some of this unless we think very much about the ways we're working together. So I'm going to tell you a little bit generally about Deloitte's journey, because we are adopters of Agile ourselves, right? So it's not just something we tell our clients, it's good for you. Here, let me show you how to do it. So we would run audits, and we would use subject matter specialists. So we have core auditors. We would bring in people who really knew Agile when it was time to do a pre or post implementation of software that was developed in an Agile way. So after doing a couple of those, I got to know our Agile specialists who were not auditors. And we started talking about, wow, wouldn't this be a cool thing to do to internal audit? What if we in internal audit started functioning in an Agile way? That was 2016 that we first had those conversations. There was a new Walmart CEO at the time, CAE at the time, and we just went to her and said, do you want to play with us? Do you want to experiment? We have no idea if this is going to work or not, but are you up to try something new? She said, absolutely, and we did a pilot, and we released our first white paper in August of 17. When Barclays, the IA group in Barclays, read that white paper, they said, oh my goodness, it's like you were sitting in our conference room. Can we talk to you? And it turned out they were also on the same exact journey. And we had actually decided, we made some key decisions that were very, very similar. So then we collaborated with them. Andre at Siemens was one of my first clients. That was in 2018, and he'll talk about his story in a minute. We continued to work with clients, but then we started to embrace it ourselves when we saw how much our clients got out of it. We're like, okay, we want some of that for ourselves. And we started to do it ourselves. Now, we're a professional services firm, and if you hire us, you rightly should expect us to work the way you want us to work. So we can't always work in an agile way, but wherever we can, we do. And when it's like a big outsourcing, we definitely embrace agile principles to run it because we see the same benefit that our clients see in functioning in this way. So just 30 more seconds on what an agile audit actually looks like, right? Normally you would do planning, then you would go into field work, you would review everything, and then you would report out. And whether your audit is 2 months long or 6 months long, that's kind of the flow. What we do in Agile is we break it up into sprints. And I put 2 weeks up there, but there was one of my clients that took on a 1 week sprint. Typically, clients start with 2 weeks. Some then go to 3 weeks. But 2 week sprint, and you actually plan, do field work, review, and report within that 2 weeks. So when you go back to your client, your stakeholder, with a point of view about what's going on, it's really a mini audit report where you're telling them, here is what I completed. Not here is the status on my audit project that's going to last 3 months. Here's what I actually got done in 2 weeks. At the end, you would kind of bring all of those together, and that's your report. Dramatically reduces reporting at the back end. You know, there's still review, and everybody's a little different in terms of who needs to read and sign off on things. But that's kind of the high-level view of internal audit for Agile. So I'm going to turn it over to Andre to talk about his journey and how it developed at Siemens.
Good. So I also like to motivate everyone who answered the question earlier that you are not very familiar with the topic yet, to maybe implement that into your audit function to make it more attractive. That was our main focus when we started that in 2018. We had a good functioning audit. We were structured like a big four within the company. Yeah, so we had a really hierarchy, and we had tools and an audit manager and everything that you know and you might have if you're not using audit. But we wanted to make it more attractive. We wanted to make sure that when we hire young people, that they also tell us what to do, and not only we tell them what to do and how to audit. So how can we create an empowered and accountable function within our audit function within Siemens? So everything I'm talking about is agile internal auditing. And we started 2018. And how do we start that? So we started with pilots. We had 5 pilots of our audits. When I mean a pilot, so an audit of about 6 to 8 weeks. And then we looked into, so how can we make that a tangible stuff? Yeah? Not only a buzzword where people say, let's be flexible, or that we lose quality and all these things that people might think that Agile is. Agile is definitely not that. Agile gives you a room in a certain framework with clear roles and responsibilities to exactly be very flexible during the audit, getting all the knowledge that you have in the room out of the audit team, regardless of hierarchies, and then, but still ensuring the quality of our audits. So we listened carefully and came up then with our own agile auditing framework, which is based on Scrum. So we have the roles, yeah? And the roles are the roles within the audit. So forget the hierarchy. Yeah? When we started the implementation, I had my colleagues running into the room. So what are the roles now based on the current hierarchy? Who's the audit partner? Who's the audit manager? So forget the hierarchy and start from the roles that you mix up every audit that you start. Yeah? So we start with the product owner. The product owner is the one who is the ultimate responsible for an audit, and the product owner can be anyone in the hierarchy. Yeah? So as we also have cyber audit, for example, or also new audits like sustainability and so on, sometimes the product owner is just an associate because they are the most experienced one with a certain topic. And then we have the Scrum Master. The Scrum Master is the one who ensures that we adhere to the Agile auditing framework that we have. And then we have the audit team, and this is the whole team that performs the audit. And now there is something new that then we created because we needed also to find space for, let's say, my level of the organization, who are at the end are the ones who are also presenting that to the head of internal audit, or maybe to the audit committee or to the managing board. And this is how we created the audit champion. But the audit champion is not part of the audit team. He or she are at the end the ones who then are involved in certain events. And that's where I'm going to go next. So we do have, if we look at the events, we have the sprints, as Sarah said. Our sprints are also a week or 2 weeks, but you have to decide that per audit. So it's not that you shift that around within the audit. And the sprint planning starts with the sprint 0. So that's the first part before you start your audit, where you create your audit canvas. The audit canvas is more or less like a page where you have your stakeholders, where you do your homework. Why are we doing this audit? What are the risks that we want to address with this audit? What are the impediments that we can see? Yeah? And then we also have looking into the POVs. So the POVs is more or less the results at the end of a sprint. So at the end of each week of an audit, that is about 6 weeks, you come up with already what are the findings that you have seen, or maybe also semi-findings where you stand, so also that you avoid that effect, yeah, that some of you might have, and I also had in a certain time of my career as a young auditor, to jump out of the cake after 6 weeks and say, we found this and this. We avoid that culture now because we are in a regular contact with our auditee. At the end of each sprint, which is a week or 2, then we already share with the auditee where we stand with the audit, so we avoid also the endless discussions at the end of the audit. Yeah. And here, that's also something we figured out when we were doing the pilots. We need an internal POV. So before we go to the auditee, and obviously there are sometimes top managers and senior management there, we needed to make sure that we as a team, especially the audit champions, are also in line and are informed what we are doing. I think one important part of agile auditing, as Sarah said, is the inspect and adapt. And how do we do that? Is also the sprint, the retrospective, where the team sits together and sees and discusses what works and what doesn't work, and how can we improve in the next sprint. So this is just like a very quick overview of our framework that we implemented at that time. So going back to our journey, so we have now a framework. We started with the pilots. We have a framework that fits to us. We included Scrum as the Agile methodology, but also the audit Kanban, the Kanban board. And this is now a real tangible framework. So it's not that you can do whatever you like, and you can say empowerment when you want, but then you run away when it comes to accountability. No, we try to have a clear framework, and we are still having that framework, but I will come to later on also what works and what doesn't work. So we started then with training. So we have 3 training milestones. One is we have a boot camp where everyone gets a training, and then we have a specialized training for Scrum Masters, and then we had a specialized training for the product owner. And these trainings were obviously in-person training. We're talking here 2019. That's where we decided all our audits are going to be done through the Agile methodology. And we had a lot, so we trained the organization, and thank God we started in October 2019, just that you know why we start in the middle of the year, because our fiscal year of our company starts at the 1st of October. This is why I decided to start the new fiscal year with the Agile auditing approach. We did that 6 months, and then COVID hit us. And we were very grateful that we started that, because what happened there, and just don't, if everyone tried to put that under the rack, this experience with COVID, but at that time we didn't have teams, we didn't have all these infrastructures that you work, or you have these virtual setups, and at that time we did not have any disruption in continuing our audits, because our people were trained that everyone is empowered, everyone is responsible in the audit, and we didn't have the reaction that everyone looked into the audit master to tell me what to do, because everyone had their user stories. We had the sprint, so at the end of the week we knew what we have to fulfill, and it was a clear structure. So that was really, really helpful for us. And then now we are 5 years later. Last year, I was looking into, and obviously I perform audits mainly around sustainability lately. I felt there is something going wrong. We are not really living the agile mindset anymore and fulfilling our framework. And the reasons, we will come to these, we didn't know yet, but I can tell you what I found out, that there was some mismatch at the end. And just remember, for everyone who joined later, our function is we don't have auditors for a lifetime. So our structure is that you come in you should have 5 years of experience. Sometimes we make exceptions in cyber, IT, and so on, but in general, experienced people join us, stay with us 3 to 5 years, and then go out into the business and make a career there. So we do not have auditors as a lifetime career. Now we're changing that mindset a bit, because the disruptions that we see and the transformations that we're living in, we also cannot afford always having newbies in the function. So we need to have a backbone. Yeah? So we will have, I would say, maybe 10% people who are staying longer with us. Yeah. So the approach is now, out or up. Yeah? So we also create our organization from. So that's just a side note that you know where we were coming from. So anyhow, so during the audits last year, I've noticed that especially in the virtual setups, for example, the internal sprint reviews I was talking about. In the past, we were sitting or standing around a Kanban board physically, so in person, and you get the energy, and people get involved and talk about and how, all these things. And now I figured out that I'm sitting at home, and I also only have then, these Teams and then you have all these heads, and then I start a question, and then I get ending up only having a discussion with one person who is the owner of that user story. And everyone else, maybe they are chatting, I can't see that, but you see, people are typing, or you see like people maybe are chatting with each other, or maybe others are reading the news. I don't know what they're doing, or maybe they are just listening, yeah? And I felt like this is not the team spirit that we want, because we want a team accountability for an audit, yeah? Not individual, user story owner telling so on. And then I also felt when I enter this virtual room, or also an in-person room, the focus comes back to me, yeah? But I'm not part of the team. Remember, I'm just the audit champion. The one who is the ultimate responsible should be the product owner, yeah? And then we've also figured out that the sprint zero, which is the most essential part, it's like in Formula One. If you don't have a good start, yeah, you will not make it normally. And here, sprint zero, people are not taking that serious. Yeah. So because we have teams still finishing the old audits, teams are not even there yet, or it's only done that the product owner has prepared everything at home or wherever, and then they just download the information to the team, and then there is no co-creation and co-alignment on what the audit is about. Remember the risks, the stakeholders, why we're doing it, what would you want to achieve with that audit, and so on. And this is like a really essential part for agile auditing to work, is that you have and you take a time for sprint zero. Yeah? So it's a week or 2 weeks where we get all the information in the room. Remember, this is why we're doing it. Yeah? Not that one person tells then the team what to do. We want to have a collective knowledge sharing and information, and this only comes also with a team accountability. And then we also saw like within the daily scrums, that it was not a collective discussion on how we can move the impediments. What is in your way in order to perform or continue with that audit? We felt like everyone is just sharing where they stand and updating the product owner or the audit champion, not updating each other as a team, yeah, who are at the end the responsibles and accountable for that. What we also saw, that we do these polls within our organization where people give us feedback in general, and then we get somehow feedback. Why did you make this person a product owner? Like this and this is, they feel like the product owner is a pre-promotion to a disciplinary role, which it isn't. It has nothing to do with that. Remember, it's totally disconnected from the hierarchy at the end. And the other thing what we also saw is that the Scrum Master, who has a real important role in order to create this accountability triangle, which is the team, the product owner, and the Scrum Master, that they have a safe space to share everything that's going on in the audit. Yeah. So it's not like the secretary, or it sounds like judging or making that work less valuable, but it's not the team assistant. Yeah. It is a real facilitator to create the safe space in order to do that audit. And on other audits, we found out sometimes the feedback, the Scrum Master is like the deputy product owner, which is also wrong. Yeah. So there are things that are going wrong, and where I felt, are we living the spirit of agile auditing while we implemented it? Do we really have the empowerment? Yeah. And here I think, yes, we have, but sometimes I felt, especially with the new ones joining the organization, but they don't want the accountability. Empowered, yes, and when it comes to accountability, me as an associate, I go back into the organizational safety net, and then I look up to the bosses I have and ask for. But that doesn't work. Empowerment has to come with accountability, and empowerment is not autonomy. Yeah, so that's also something what if you want to go on that journey. And why isn't it autonomy? Because we do have a framework. We have roles, we have responsibilities, we have events, and we have artifacts which we were working on. So there is a lot of stories I can share what didn't work and where we felt like something is going wrong at the moment. And then we asked ourselves, and I met Sarah again in January, why is that so? Yeah, and then we figured out.
Yeah, go back one more.
Go back.
Yeah.
So before
we run into the next section, we know, right? When Andre and I met, we talked about the world's changed, right? How has it changed? So when you look at your organization, facing it as a risk and compliance professional, what is your biggest disruptor, right? What's disrupting you at the moment? Digital transformation, hybrid working is a big one. Generational. Yep. Awesome.
Just looking at the new global audits, and we are at the IIA conference, just a reminder. No, just kidding.
Okay. All right, good. So we asked ourselves essentially that question, and we actually spent a day together where we shared stuff we were seeing at other clients. Andre shared what he is seeing at Siemens. And we kind of came up with these 5 that kind of underlined a lot of what was going on in our departments.
Yeah, so one thing what I definitely felt that has changed, and I need to remind myself as I'm also the talent responsible for the organization, I felt that the people don't know anymore why we started implementing agile auditing. As again, we have this rotational program that people stay with us 3 to 5 years and then move out. So people who were there 2018 and 2019 are not longer with the organization. The leadership has changed. So also, how can we keep up that spirit? Why did we implement that? And how can we avoid that we fall back into a real rigid execution of audits and also being like maybe not that attractive anymore as a function, yeah. And this is something which I think is also really, really important to see that also the virtual trainings did not deliver the same thing as when you have them the in-person trainings. Yeah, so again, one thing is that we lost a lot of the people, which was by intent, that we developed them into the business. They are there now, but we lost that knowledge of why we implemented Agile within the organization. So we thought, okay, here we need to do something now, again, to bring everyone together and think and also transfer this fire about Agile auditing into the organization. The second, sorry, go ahead.
If I can just interject, there's a couple of other organizations that I work with, and their model is to feed the organization, to be a talent feeder. And in fact, having internal audit embrace agile practices and mindset is an additional plus, because a lot of these organizations are actually adopting business agility. So the idea that they're going to get an auditor who is practiced in agile techniques is a plus for them. So it actually enhances their business case to move into the organization.
Good. The second thing we have is the whole topic about hybrid working. So when we started that, I was able to join the colleagues from, is anyone from Barclays here? No. So I joined the Barclays Bank organization, who was a pioneer in implementing agile auditing. And I had a moment at 11 o'clock. They were all on one floor, so that was pre-COVID. And at 11, they had their daily stand-ups. And then you see the whole organization standing in like groups of 5 to 6 around a Kanban board. And then they discuss together where they stand in a complex audit topic. And this energy, of course, was an in-person energy, because you can read the people sitting beside you, are they uncomfortable? Are they following you? Are they really sharing their impediments and the things that do not work? During the hybrid working, you don't have that, but that's like totally human, because you might sit in your comfortable home and then you feel safe. You don't feel engaged. You cannot read the room. And this is something where we need to work with. How can we work with especially teams that are mixed up, where people might be in the room and part of the team is not in the room because they are also in somewhere else, because we also want to reduce travel, not only from a cost perspective, also from a sustainability perspective. Our organization is in China, in India, in Germany, Portugal, and the US, but we audit the whole world. So we might be also on an audit, on the auditee side. So how can we work there in getting this energy back and the team accountability and commitment if there are people in the room and others at home or only on Teams? Yeah. So that would be the second thing, where I don't have an answer yet, but we need to discuss that also with the new generation. How can we make this work that you feel empowered and accountable, but that you are also participating and also have the empathy for the other team members?
Right. And hybrid is not going away, but we need to somehow figure out how to capture that. Brene Brown talked in a recent webcast. We had her come and talk to Deloitte. And she talked about the need for task tension, right? And when you're in person, people can disagree with you, and it's okay, and that debate can happen, and going back and forth. But as soon as you put it on Zoom, it becomes task conflict, and it's a whole different feel. So it is a problem that we need to solve, which kind of brings me into the next topic, which is generational differences, generational shift. And I'm going to ask another question, show of hands. How many of you struggle with differing expectations of your newer professionals, of what they want to get out of work? Is that a challenge for you?
Not so many hands.
Not so many.
Can you tell us how?
Yeah.
Maybe you should come on stage.
You should be coming up here, right? So I think that what we see at Deloitte, what I've seen in my clients, is that there's a different expectation of what people want to get out of work. So the older leaders, of which I'm in that group, we can't look to our history and say, well, this motivated me, or this is what I did to get ahead, because it's more complex, right? So the energy, the thinking, the creativity, the fact that some of these guys are digital natives, super critical to have that in your functions. But then how do you bridge the gap? And I know Andres said this a lot, but this is really, really key. We want to empower them, but there also needs to be accountability, because we're a business. You guys are all part of a business, right? You need to get stuff done. And it can't just be when you want to. Sometimes it's on somebody else's timeline.
Yeah, sure. I mean, our vision at the Siemens assurance function is to be pioneers in assurance and a talent incubator for Siemens. So in order to do that, we need to get the best into an internal audit function. And this is why we have that topic of the generational topic. So it's not about like us, like our generation against them or anything. That's not the topic. The topic is how can we get the best out of all generations, because we're hiring at CFA in all generations. We have 4 generations under one roof. So this is why we have that topic, and there is a shift, and it's also generational. Z is not the same in Germany than it is in the US or in China. They are facing different topics, different challenges, and also they have a different socialization, how they grew up. So that's where the topic comes from. The next topic is the whole topic about the digitalization and this as a disruption. I think everyone sees that not as a disruption anymore. I think no one works without IT or any digital or also data analytics tools anymore. Now we have AI. So let me just say something around AI. What I feel here, that looking into now the younger generation, again, it's only part of our function, there is also a bit of the expectation that the machine is now going to tell us what we're going to audit. And everyone, I'm sure here in the room, is also working on certain AI solutions. And here there are 2 challenges. One challenge is, of course, the data that is the basis for AI solutions. And you need to have certain data volumes, standardization, and then that you can use let's say, the machine or a large language model here. But then you need to be very careful that we do not use old information to audit future topics. And this is where Agile, where I see it as a disruption for Agile, because we want always to have the best knowledge out for a topic, out of the room and of the team that is assigned to this audit. The second challenge I see, not old information, is what about if we audit new topics? Like I'm auditing sustainability within Siemens. This is a new topic, and everyone who is maybe also from Europe knows all these challenges that we are getting with the regulations that we have. And here, AI might be a solution, but maybe also not yet. Last but not least, I think that's a very quick one, is also we see how the international, how Agile auditing is also helping us at least to fulfill the new standards. I don't know, how far are we with the time? Shall we? Maybe 2 minutes?
I think, is the standards
yes.
here? Okay, perfect. So when we first started on the Agile journey, the biggest question we got is, but what about the standards? And we did a lot of work. We worked with the IIA. We put out a white paper. The previous standards in Agile were fine. They worked well together. This is even better. The standards that are out today actually embrace Agile concepts. They never use the word Agile in the standards, but they embrace Agile concepts like iterative engagements. Like now it's okay to have flexibility in the order of your work plan. Change is actually encouraged, right? And definitely retrospection, like stepping back and like showing how you're continuously improving, right? If you want to be a valuable internal audit function. So when I spent a lot of time on the standards and agility before, I looked at the new standards this year, it's just even better. It is embracing those concepts that will be part of your ways of working in internal audit.
10 minutes.
Yes, so we are getting now towards the end, and we do have some questions coming in. Right before we get to the question, just a couple of quick comments, and then we'll start addressing your questions. We need teams and leaders with a growth mindset. A growth mindset is an agile mindset. It's scientific. It's like, come up with an experiment, try it out, see the results, make changes, make it better, try it out again, see the results. That is the iterative mindset. There's a phrase I've used a lot recently, which is the culture of AI is agile, right? You can't use AI if you're not taking that approach. And forget about innovation if you're not a safe place to work for. Because what does innovation need? It needs people willing to take a chance, people being creative, people being open to failure, right? If you don't have that, then you take innovation off the table. You're not going to be innovative. So it is very, very important. So it's the shift from doing agile, like, oh, look, I've got a framework. Here's our training, to actually being agile and having that continuous growth mindset and being willing to change. And becoming very, very outcome focused, right? So the goal is never to be agile, even though I just said you should be agile. That's not the goal. The goal is to achieve the outcomes that you need. The outcomes in an audit, the outcomes for your function. That's what you want to achieve, and agility can help you get there quicker, better, faster, happier. One last story from Andre, and then we will go on to questions.
Yeah, so maybe just how to conclude. A team lead who reports to me asked me last week, as I have a lot of assignments on my table at the moment, and there's limited time to be still empty in my diary. And then she asked me, why are you doing this? Going away now for 3 days, flying over from Germany to the US to do the Agile topic. And I'm doing that because I really like to convince you that this is helping our function, or helping also us as internal auditors, in order to increase the attractiveness, in order to make our function also a real talent incubator for your organization. Yeah? And also, for me, it's also about to, as you said, how can we be agile, not only do agile. Yeah. This is why it's also called human being, not human doing. And this is, I think, a real difference that we should focus on when we speak about agile auditing. So
we
to
do,
your questions.
So one thing I'll tell you is we have a lot of questions, and I will commit that whatever we don't get to today, we will, because we have these captured, we will answer those and get back to you. But the couple at the top have 2 votes, because you can vote them up, right? So what technology tools or platforms have shown to be very effective in supporting agile auditing?
So we had our own platform, but then now we reprogrammed it. We have our roles in it now. We have clear sprint reviews. We also have our user stories in that. And we created that by ourselves, which is the next generation audit tool. It's called NGUT. And there we do have now a tool support, because obviously we need to document everything as well, based on the agile roles and responsibilities and the events. So we do have our own tool that we use, but I'm sure there are other tools there that you can take maybe off the shelves.
Yeah. So virtual is much more important now. When we first started on this journey, I remember the CAE from Barclays said, I'm not even going to look into a tool until my people get used to standing up and talking to each other. I don't want to give them another excuse to not get up. That's not possible these days. So there is Teams has a planner, which makes kind of a nice Kanban board. People have used Jira and DevOps to actually program something. Audit Board is now growing their agility pieces within Audit Board, but I think Workiva and others are doing that as well. So there's a lot of tools out there that you can use, and you can also just use Excel spreadsheets, right? That's a tool as well. So there's a lot out there. It depends on how big you are and what the goals of your function are. So there's two here that are kind of related. One is, what is best practices for overcoming resistance to change? And then the other one is from a Korean businessman that says that decision-making by the superior of the organization is so strong, it's difficult to reform or manage the Agile organization. Both of those comments are actually pretty similar, and it's resistance to change. It is this concept of letting go of control, right? So there's a saying, keep control, create followers, let go of control, and create leaders. So the reality is that we can't afford to just have the one person in charge. And I guess I would ask Andre, from your experience, what moves the leaders? Because the teams adopt Agile pretty quickly and like it.
Well, I totally understand that, and this is, I think, something that was also at the beginning. I needed to convince myself, but also convince my colleagues. So that's definitely a topic there. Second thing is change is not going anywhere. It's coming. We have all these disruptions, whether it's in our industries, whether it's in our societies, in brackets sometimes unfortunate, but also in globalization. Yeah, we do have, so we need this change. So we need to adapt to change, and we need to, so not reacting to change, or not reacting is even too late, not being ready for change is not an option. Yeah. The good thing is we are not working in an invention or something how can you call it, like in a lab, or we need to create new products. We are internal audit. So for us, the good thing is why this concept works. We always have a beginning and we have an end. We do have an audit report at the end, so our results are documented. We have a clear team assigned to that. So that we say that we lose control. This cannot happen because at the end we also need to fulfill all our standards. And this is why Agile, if you want to implement this, you need to define a clear framework where no one can live outside that framework. There are events, there are roles and responsibilities that need to be followed, and they have a reason. Yeah. Exactly that the team doesn't lose control of the audit. And it's not that they are like somewhere in free space. There is, of course, they all have their disciplinary leaders at the end of the day who might not get involved in that audit, but still in the performance of the individual, how they are working in that audit. So it's not like you lose control, or it's everyone does what they want and we only react and do like flexible stuff like headless chickens. This is not how Agile audit. I think it's the opposite. I think it's even more controls because you have the social correct, like an instrument of socializing the whole team. So it's not built on one shoulder. It's a lot of shoulders. So I think you even increase the control for an audit topic.
Right. I'll just add to that is leaders need training. even the top leaders. And if you're telling me that you work for someone who absolutely refused to even consider new ideas or be trained, then that's a challenge. But what we do, and this is a lesson we learned, right? We started with the teams, and the teams loved it. They're like, of course, we're more involved, we own more. We love it. Actually, before we leave, let me go to this last, yikes, thank you. Last CPE, right? So we need 3 an hour, so you need this one. The virtual people, definitely, you need this one. And this is going to create a word cloud. What advantages do you see in Agile auditing? So you can type in 1 word, 10 words, you can type in whatever you want. It will create a word cloud. So while we're creating that, let me just finish this thought, is that teams love it, and they will adopt it, and they will be successful. Teams can be undermined by leaders. So unless you quickly move to then training the leaders, so we often now, if we're doing a pilot, even before the pilot is fully completed, we start seeing these good results coming, we start talking about leadership training. So you need to have that open, innovative mindset.
Yeah, so I think
we are at
time.
This is great, though.
Yeah.
This is really good. Again, we did not answer all your questions. We commit to answering your questions. We'll stay here for a little bit. I know everybody's going to want to get to lunch, but if you want to talk to us now, we are here.
And I think one thing that there is talent. We want the best talents for our organizations. And if you want to get the best talents, also, not only the new generation, we are currently working with someone joining us the last 2 years of the career. Yeah. And this person likes the way how we're working, because then they can give input without having that the younger ones feel the input comes this way, it's on eye level. So just to summarize, it is also about getting the best talents into our organization and also preparing our companies in order that they pull the best talents out of audit, but also develop their talents into audit. And I think this is something we all want. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for coming.
Before everybody leaves, just make sure if you did not scan your badge in on the way in, please visit Customer Relations to adjust so you get credit for this session. And remember to scan in for every session.
I thought it went really well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did.
When